In this first problem, we have a right triangle with an angle of 34 degrees and side lengths of x and 7. And how can we solve for x? So the first thing we need to do is we need to label these sides in relation to the angle so we can figure out what part of SOH CAH TOA to use. So let's take a look at this x here. What is x? Well, I want to know that it is opposite to the right angle. Any side that is opposite to the right angle in a triangle is going to be called hypotenuse. So I'm going to call this h. And then now we have this 7 and it is across from that 34-degree angle. So because it is directly across from a 34-degree angle, it is the farthest away, and therefore we'll call it the opposite side. So we'll call it O. Now what trig function relates O and H? Well, remember SOH CAH TOA, that sounds like the SO in SOH CAH TOA. So therefore, what trig function are we going to use? Well, the S stands for sine. So we're going to use sine to help us solve this problem. So now let's write sine of the angle. And we already know the angle. It is 34 degrees, right? And what does SOH CAH TOA tell us? Remember, well, SOH CAH TOA tells us that sine is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse. And the thing is, we know what the opposite and the hypotenuse are. O is just 7, and H is just x. Now look, we have an equation we can use to solve for x. So how can we solve for x? The first thing I'm going to do is multiply by x on both sides because x is in the denominator. So now if I do that, I'm going to get x times sine of 34 is equal to 7. Now how do I isolate x? Well, because we're multiplying by sine 34 on the left side, let's divide by sine 34 on both sides. So now the sine 34s will cancel out on the left side, and I'm going to be left with x is equal to 7 divided by sine of 34. And we can just compute this now on a calculator. So first, if you calculate sine of 34, that ends up being about 0.559. And now just do 7 divided by 0.559 on a calculator. If you do that, you're going to get that x is equal to 12.5. And that's how we can use SOH CAH TOA to find x in this case. Let's go on to a different problem.